Good evening and welcome to Cronkite Cut. I'm Quentin Walker.
And I'm Faith Abercrombie. Thank you for joining us.
Bad guy singer Billie Eilish is being called a bad guy after a recent controversy surfaced this week on Twitter. It all started when one Twitter user was thrift shopping in LA and bought a bright puffy jacket much like the ones owned by Eilish. After making the purchase, the woman found a note in the pocket saying the jacket was for Billie Eilish from a fan. After a bit of investigating, the woman was able to track down the fan and even found photos of the fan giving the jacket to Eilish. Though she was excited to have found the item, many fans were quick to criticize Eilish for donating the thoughtful gift. The fan that gave the gift did make a statement on Twitter, writing he was sad the jacket never got to keep her warm. Many other Twitter users chimed in to say that Eilish receives hundreds of gifts at meet and greets and that making donations is just an effective way of making sure the items actually get put to a good use. This is like crazy. What do you think?
Okay, all I can say is at least someone didn't find it in the trash.
Right, exactly.
I mean, at least she donated it. I think it's like a little messed up because someone put some thought, obviously money, to give her this gift. But I mean, she gets so many gifts. That's a good point. She probably has hundreds like in her room, you know?
Yeah. People on Twitter were saying she at least could have taken the note out of the pocket, maybe
I agree.
kept that.
That's a little shady, but the fact that that girl was able to track down, that's just like the power of Twitter.
Exactly. The internet is a crazy, crazy place.
Well, star Billie Eilish has officially released a new brand of clothing for children. Reporter Ryan Vlahovic has more.
Just when you thought she couldn't do more within a year of her rise to fame, Billie Eilish launched her brand new kids clothing line on November 18th. Eilish announced the kids line with a video from the photo shoot in which about a dozen kids are seen climbing all over her while wearing her new merch. The collection includes a number of pieces from her most well-known Blush merch line, including sweatshirts, t-shirts, beanies, ranging from $20 to $60. In the studio, I'm Ryan Vlahovic, Cronkite Cut.
The artist of the decade has been battling to sing her own songs from the decade without making people mad. Taylor Swift took her battle with Scooter Braun and Scott Borchetta to social media. Swift tweeted many paragraphs expressing her frustration, saying, quote, "I'm not allowed to perform my old songs on television because they claim that would be re-recording my music before I'm allowed to next year." Swift also expressed in her tweet that she feels like she has been told to be a little girl and shut up or you'll be punished. Swift is supposed to perform at the American Music Awards and have a Netflix documentary come out soon, but right now she said everything is a big question mark. Ouch. The only response Braun has given is Instagramming a photo that says kindness is the only response. It looks like this ongoing battle has been going on behind the scenes for way too long. I just think that maybe there's a little more to this story. I don't think they're just like, no, you can't perform your old music. I'm sure there's like licensing rights issues. There must be something going on with like the big music record labels that are saying no. I don't think they're just against her, you know?
Right. It seems to be a lot, and I'm no lawyer, so looking through all that paperwork is not something I need to do, but hopefully it all gets sorted out soon.
I just want to be able to sing along to her songs, you know, during the American Music Awards, so hopefully when she gets that big award, I can definitely be listening at home.
Very soon. Well, makeup artist and YouTuber James Charles made an exciting announcement about an upcoming TV show he will be hosting. Reporter Amanda Day has more.
Hi sisters! Your favorite beauty influencer, or maybe not favorite, will be hosting a reality competition show on their YouTube channel in the spring of 2020. James Charles announced he'll be hosting the reality show that will take a look at 6 contestants in hopes of becoming a professional makeup artist. The 6 contestants will be competing in different challenges judged by Charles and celebrity judges, as well as veterans of the makeup world. Charles says ever since he started his own YouTube channel, it has been a dream of his to make his own reality show. Unfortunately, the application to apply to the show has already closed, but Charles says he wants to find people for the show who are hard workers but haven't been discovered in the world of makeup yet. In the studio, Cronkite Cut, Amanda Day.
Call it the battle royale of game shows as Ken Jennings, Brad Rutter, and James Holhauer compete in the challenge. Here's how it will work. The 3 champs will compete in a series of matches, and the first player to win 3 will receive a cool $1,000,000 and be crowned the greatest of all time. The other 2 contestants will walk away with $250,000 each. Each man boasts some pretty impressive stats already. Jennings won a record 74 games straight, Rutter hauled in the most money, and Holhauer holds the title for top single game winnings. Jeopardy host Alex Trebek says this competition should set the record straight on who is the best of the best. It will air starting January 7th.
The Netflix star Marie Kondo has decided to start an online store. The star is known for encouraging people to rid their homes of things they don't need and instead placing them with objects of joy. With this in mind, Marie's online store won't just be any store. It will feature items that will, quote, spark joy. The store will be launched on her website, conmarie.com, and it includes over 100 products. Well-known singer Kanye West brought his new Jesus is King album to a prison in the form of a surprise concert this past week. Cronkite Cut reporter Haley Forbes has the rest.
Jesus is King singer Kanye West performed a surprise concert for inmates, both male and female, at Harris County Jail in Houston, Texas. West performed songs from his new album, Jesus is King, leaving inmates on their knees, waving their hands in praise. West brought some light into the lives of these people, giving them hope and joy. West said his performance was, quote, a mission, not a show. Not only is West sharing his new album to inmates at a county jail, but he uses it to promote good all around. The album follows a Christian theme, using God as a central idea, an idea that West isn't a stranger to. In light of the performance at Harris County Jail, West has begun performing at Sunday services, gathering those in communities near him close together for Mass in the studio. Haley Forbes, Cronkite Cut.
Organizers for the Glastonbury Festival confirmed McCartney's performance on Twitter Monday. The iconic songwriter first tipped fans off when he dropped some not-so-subtle hints on social media earlier in the day. 2020 will mark the 50th anniversary of the music festival in Somerset, England. It also is not the first time McCartney has headlined. In 2004, he played a 33-song set, which included many iconic Beatles tunes. McCartney won't be the only big name to perform. Diana Ross is also set to take the stage. The Glastonbury Festival spans 5 days in June, but tickets are already sold out.
Goodbye, baby. The beloved panda is leaving Washington Tuesday and heading to his new home. All giant panda cubs born at the Smithsonian National Zoo moved to China when they are 4 years old because of the zoo's breeding agreement they have with China. The zoo said farewell to Bei with a week-long series of public events. You see him in this video being transported in a FedEx crate as he's leaving the zoo. He'll also fly his own private plane called the Panda Express. FedEx even put a giant picture of a panda on the plane. It's a 15-hour flight, so crews stocked the plane with plenty of food, water, and 66 pounds of bamboo.
Here's a quick update about the college admissions scandal that shook pretty much every Full House lover earlier this year.
Along with Lori Loughlin and her husband Mossimo Giannulli, more than 50 other people have been charged. But the only difference between those who have been charged and tried is, well, they pled guilty, which by taking accountability of their actions results in only 6 months jail time. Loughlin, on the other hand, still hasn't taken full accountability for her actions. According to court transcripts collected by Good Morning America, since Loughlin decided to not plead guilty, she is now looking to 2 to 3 years in prison. Joining me here now is Carolina Hassett. Carolina?
Thanks, Milan. Yes, the charges that Lori Loughlin and her husband are facing are getting more and more intense, especially because nobody is pleading guilty. One of the main charges they face right now is federal systems bribery, which basically means that they both passed a vast amount of money through the federal systems in order to get their kids into the university. So, Milan, I want to know, what do you think about this? And also, what do you think the outcome is going to be?
Honestly, Carolina, I wish that Lori would just take the charges and kind of go with it and run with it as it is. Unfortunately, that is not what's happening here. Maybe she'll eventually learn. I'm not too sure. I'm curious to see when this court case will end, actually. But I guess this would be a perfect time for the young Michelle Tanner's wise words, "You're in big trouble, mister." In the studio for Cronkite Cut, I'm Milan Andrade.
Actor Tom Hanks recently found out he was related to the original Mr. Rogers. Ancestry.com claims that Tom Hanks and Fred Rogers are sixth cousins. It has been revealed that they share the same great-great-great-great-great-grandfather.
This finding is jaw-dropping, especially because Tom Hanks will be playing Mr. Rogers in the upcoming film. I want to do Ancestry.com so bad. The amount of times people say, oh my gosh, are you related to Abercrombie & Fitch? Do you own the store? And I'm like,
who's Abercrombie & Fitch?
I wish.
Who are
I
they?
did. I don't know, just some popular brand.
Some popular brands?
I wish, but people are like asking me when I'm like in the McDonald's drive-thru, and I'm like, I wouldn't be here right now, but I could be. Who do you think you're related to?
So you go through the McDonald's drive-thru and you say, hi, I'm Faith Abercrombie.
I just give him my card to swipe.
Oh, there we go. Give it the card to swipe. See, whenever I give my card to swipe, they think I'm related to... That's, you know, nothing.
Nothing. Nothing comes to mind.
I'm just boring.
Well, hopefully we can find some famous ancestors
I know.
by doing this.
Who knows? Or at least someone really rich, right?
Hopefully.
Please?
Please. Somebody.
Well, that is it for this episode of Cronkite Cut.
And for a behind-the-scenes look at our content, follow us on our social media at @thecut_network.
Stick around for an all-new Sports Cut up next. We did it.
My name is Mark Lodato, and I'm the Associate Dean at the Cronkite School.
I'm Kristen Gilger, Senior Associate Dean at the Walter Cronkite School.
Hi, I'm Chris Callahan. I'm the Dean and a Professor at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication at Arizona State University, and I'm delighted today to be talking about the Cut Network.
What's most exciting to me right now is that students and future journalists have the opportunity to take their career in so many different directions. When I was coming up through the journalism ranks, it was pretty much television, radio, or newspapers. But look at what you can do with these skills today. You've got traditional media outlets, but you also have all sorts of new platforms in ways in which you can be a good storyteller. And then you've also got those core skills of critical thinking, strong communication, and writing, and you can literally take that anywhere. So I like to remind students that while a media job may be the first step in their career, that career can go down all sorts of different paths over the course of time, and you can end up in a really exciting and challenging place.
My favorite part about the journalism industry, pretty much everything. We just talked about this in Journalism 110 this morning, and there's so many different reasons to be excited about being a journalist, that you're providing a public service, that you're connected to your community, that you get to explore issues that you're interested in, you get to inform your community in very, very powerful ways, but also it's highly creative, and there's a significant fun factor involved, that you get the job at its essence is going out and talking to interesting people about interesting things, and then producing content around that, and that is it is unbelievably rewarding.
You're going to doubt yourself sometimes. You're going to doubt whether this is even the right choice for you sometimes, and that's fine, because doubting can make you think more deeply about things, ask more questions, listen more closely, but in the end, you should follow your passion. You should follow the thing that makes you happy and excited and engaged and interested. And journalism does that, if public relations does that, if sports reporting does that, if creating new forms of media does that, then that's what you should do.
Good evening and welcome to the Sports Cut. I'm Simon Williams.
And I'm Kaylee Connors. Thank you for joining us.
It's been 1,053 days since Colin Kaepernick played in an NFL game, but on Saturday he might have gotten one step closer to joining a roster. Kaepernick hosted a 40-minute workout where he ran a series of passing plays with 4 former NFL wide receivers as his targets. Kaepernick was largely impressive, going 53 for 60 in the air and showed off a physique that looked better than his playing days. A lot is less being made about Kaepernick's performance than the nature of the event itself. The workout was originally scheduled to be at the Atlanta Falcons training facility in Flowery Branch, Georgia, an hour northeast of Atlanta, but a dispute over a lack of transparency caused the switch. At the original NFL-sponsored workout, media would be barred from entry, and the league would be in charge of distributing the film to all 32 teams. This, paired with the NFL's insisting Kaepernick sign a liability waiver, unlike those used for other team tryouts or draft combines, made Kaepernick call an audible just an hour before the workout and host one of his own at Charles Drew High School in Riverside, which is an hour and a half from Flowery Branch on the other side of Atlanta. The waiver, which claims that the NFL says is a standard for free agent workouts, includes language about conditions of employment, which Kaepernick's lawyers say is distinctly different from that of other players. Jeff Nally, Kaepernick's agent, said via a statement that, quote, Mr. Kaepernick simply asked for a transparent and open process, which is why a new location has been selected for today, unquote. The sought-after transparency would allow for the event to be completely open to the public and media, whom Kaepernick addressed at the conclusion of the workout. All to say, this is a seminal moment for Kaepernick and NFL and their relationship going forward. And it's hard to say that this is just the stop or the end of this saga, rather a continuing, evolving piece of this story.
Definitely. And I mean, it's been 3 years now, and Kaepernick, you could say a lot. There's so many different opinions about him. People love him, people hate him. But this is a man who has had his talent, his character, his motives all put into question, and it's all been a part of a bigger scheme than football, and we're seeing that play out. So I think it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up and what his future does look like.
Absolutely.
From the pros to the college ranks, as 5th-ranked Alabama will be without starting quarterback Tua Tagovailoa for their college football playoff push. With that, we bring in Nick Shesky.
Thank you, Kaylee. Thank you, Simon. The University of Alabama's star quarterback Tua Tagovailoa was badly injured in the Tides game Saturday at Mississippi State. Tagovailoa suffered a dislocated right hip and a posterior wall fracture. This injury is a devastating blow to both Alabama football and college football as a whole. Alabama currently sits at the number 5 ranking in the college football playoffs, and they have their eyes set on the college football playoffs. Now, after losing their Heisman hopeful quarterback for the season, the Tide will have to persevere through these last few weeks of the college football season. But to end things with some good news, many people believe that Tagovailoa will be a high first-round NFL draft pick, and Alabama's team orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Lyle Kane, announced Monday that he should make a full recovery. So, while Tua Tagovailoa's career at Alabama might possibly be over, he could still have a very successful NFL career.
Yeah, and this brings up something interesting. So what does that look like for Alabama if they were to win out without Tua?
I think if they win out without Tua, they're still not going to get into the playoffs too, because we looked at UCF last year. Mackenzie Milton went down in the last week of the regular season, and they still won the conference championship game, but it's a whole different team without the starting QB.
I will say the last time they had their starting QB go down in a big game, we know what happened. Tua Tagovailoa stepped in and threw a bomb on the last play of the game to help Alabama win the national championship over Georgia. So I'm not going to say Mac Jones is going to be that guy for Alabama just yet, but it's not like it hasn't happened before.
In other football news, the Kansas City Chiefs faced off against the Los Angeles Chargers Monday night at Estadio Azteca in Mexico City. This was the 4th time Estadio Azteca hosted an NFL's regular season game. Despite QB Patrick Mahomes throwing for only 182 yards and the Chiefs' defense surrendering considerable yardage, the Chiefs went on to win the game 24-17. This was with the help of Phillip Rivers' 4 interceptions and the Chargers' inability to convert multiple red zone opportunities. The stadium was full with 76,252 fans who were loud and energetic all night. This created a fun atmosphere for both teams. However, after having to cancel last year's matchup between the Chiefs and the Rams due to poor field conditions, the conditions of the field were again brought into question this year, despite multiple pre-measures taken. This could mean the future of the NFL playing in Estadio Azteca could be brought into question.
What I think is particularly interesting about this whole setup is that the NFL has been looking to expand its international influence by having games in London. You see 4 or 5 games there every single year. Continually, there's going to be 1 or 2 games in Mexico City every year. They've toyed around with preseason games in Canada, and for an event to have its reputation tarnished slightly for the playing surface, for something that's actually used in a stadium that's used for Liga MX, Mexico's native soccer league, it kind of puts into question what the NFL is trying to do in terms of picking facilities and making sure they can find a way that the game can be grown in these nations in facilities that are put up for that task.
Improvements need to be made on the field, plain and simple. That's what needs to happen. There needs to be a difference. It should have been this year and it wasn't. So I think it'll be interesting to see what it will look like in Mexico City, because I think that is such a great market to expand if we want to go international with the NFL, but improvements need to be made.
As we're now well over the halfway mark in the NFL season, the competition is starting to heat up, pushing teams into the ultimate fight mode. Sarah Detweiler has the latest.
The Grit seemed to have reached its breaking point and crossed the line of aggression last Thursday as the Cleveland Browns hosted the Pittsburgh Steelers. The game seemed to be wrapping up nicely for the Browns as the clock ran down to the final seconds of the game with 2 sacks in a row on the Steelers until the third down, where after Rudolph was able to get the pass off, Myles Garrett continued to take Rudolph down. And after refusing to stop after whistles were blown, he then proceeded to rip Mason Rudolph's helmet off, promptly swinging at his head. The scrap escalated into a mass brawl as more teammates joined in, trying to break up the fight after more kicks and punches were being thrown. The next day, Garrett apologized for his actions, stating, quote, "Last night I made a terrible mistake. I want to apologize to Mason Rudolph, my teammates, our entire organization, our fans, and to the NFL. I know I have to be accountable for what happened and learn from my mistake, which I fully intend to do." Garrett is now suspended without pay for the remainder of the NFL season and must submit for reinstatement into the league if he plans to participate in postseason play, should the Browns make it to the playoffs. For the Sports Cut, I'm Sarah Detweiler.
Carmelo Anthony will make his return to the NBA after over a year. Amna Saban has the story.
The Portland Trail Blazers officially signed Carmelo Anthony to a 1-year non-guaranteed contract, giving him a second chance in the league. After being drafted 3rd overall, Carmelo was always the focal point of the offense, where he built a Hall of Fame career. But his unwillingness to accept a smaller role, along with an evolving offensive landscape no longer suited for his expertise, left Melo jobless for the past year. Anthony last played in the league with the Houston Rockets briefly before cutting him after a rough start to the season. This time, the Blazers start the season slow, now 5 games under 500, and hope Carmelo will be the spark to get them back on track. For the Sports Cut, I'm Amna Sapan.
For this week's highlights, we head to the NHL, where the Rangers take on the Panthers in a high-scoring affair. Both teams are jockeying for a position in the Eastern Conference. Then we head to the NBA, where the Spurs take on the Dallas Mavericks. And Luka Doncic is coming off a 26-point, 15-rebound game to continue his hot start. Simon, do your thing.
All right, we're in Fort Lauderdale for Panthers-Rangers. Keith Yandel at the top of the key. He has Huberdeau on the left side. On to the right, Mike Hoffman, the one-timer. Beautiful look for the Panthers, the first shot of the game, and it's the best kind of shot you can have. It's a goal. Panthers are up 1-0. All right, just a minute later, the Rangers trying to answer, and they will. Ryan Strome with a beautiful look on the right side. Excellent look for Strome, who works in transition. Okay, 13-10 left in the period. Here's Huberdeau again with a magical feed to center ice. Excellent look. Evgeny Dadonov gets his first goal of the game, and it's another power play goal. Panthers up 2-1. Now we go to the second period. We're tied at 2. Tony DeAngelo for the Rangers says, all right, we're going to break this game open. And the away team takes a 3-2 lead. Tony DeAngelo celebrating with his teammates there. All right, now the Panthers playing catch-up for the first time in today's game. Everyone's battling for the puck, but Brett Connolly winds up with it and as a short-angle shot to tie this game back up 3-3. All right, 2 minutes later, 2 minutes to play in the period. As you can see, Lundqvist isn't too happy with that. Connolly with an excellent look, able to poke one in. We're going to go right to 2 minutes left in the second period. Panthers look to put this one away for good, knocked around the back of the net. Kind of work his way around. Yandel, you guys remember him? Yeah, he did what he did in the first period. He sets up a beautiful shot. Dadonov with the goal. Excellent look. 2 goals for Dadonov tonight. All right, we're going to switch things over to the NBA. Spurs on the road. DeMar DeRozan, nice little 8-foot jumper to make this a 6-point game. We got 5 minutes left to play in the game. DeRozan again drives to the basket, but instead kicks things out to a wide-open DeMarre Carroll. Makes his first bucket of the night. It was a 3, but that's all that mattered as he got a clutch bucket of his own. Luka Doncic with an excellent soft right-hand lay off the basket after driving through the lane. As he's going to do it just again. Battles through contact, right at the foul line. Euro step, nice hands. But Porzingis able to help him off of the missed basket. The 2 Euro players come in to Dallas and have made an impact. Now Porzingis again, pump fake, pull up for 3, tipped around, but Dallas gets it to fall. Helpful look from Dorian Finley-Smith, and Dallas controls yet again. DeMar DeRozan Listen, he was the man in Toronto. He's trying to show why he's the man in San Antonio. But Luka Doncic says, I was the reigning Western Conference Rookie of the Year. Let me put this game on ice. 42, 11, and 11, a triple-double. He's the youngest player ever to have a triple-double. Wow, excellent stuff from Luka Doncic. He's making a case for, if you can even have most improved player from a Rookie of the Year, he's making the case right now. He's had back-to-back triple-doubles this season. Excellent look for Dallas and the surging Mavericks.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's it for this edition of the Sports Cut.
For a behind-the-scenes look at our content, follow us on our social medias at @thecut_network.
Stay tuned for all new Cut for News coming right up.
My name is Mark Lodato, and I'm the Associate Dean at the Cronkite School.
I'm Kristen Gilger, Senior Associate Dean at the Walter Cronkite School.
Hi, I'm Chris Callahan. I'm the Dean and a Professor at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication at Arizona State University, and I'm delighted today to be talking about the Cut Network.
What's most exciting to me right now is that students and future journalists have the opportunity to take their career in so many different directions. When I was coming up through the journalism ranks, it was pretty much television, radio, or newspapers. But look at what you can do with these skills today. You've got traditional media outlets, but you also have all sorts of new platforms in ways in which you can be a good storyteller. And then you've also got those core skills of critical thinking, strong communication, and writing, and you can literally take that anywhere. So I like to remind students that while a media job may be the first step in their career, that career can go down all sorts of different paths over the course of time, and you can end up in a really exciting and challenging place.
My favorite part about the journalism industry, pretty much everything. We just talked about this in Journalism 110 this morning, and there's so many different reasons to be excited about being a journalist, that you're providing a public service, that you're connected to your community, that you get to explore issues that you're interested in, you get to inform your community in very, very powerful ways, but also it's highly creative, and there's a significant fun factor involved, that you get the job at its essence is going out and talking to interesting people about interesting things, and then producing content around that, and that is it is unbelievably rewarding.
You're going to doubt yourself sometimes. You're going to doubt whether this is even the right choice for you sometimes, and that's fine, because doubting can make you think more deeply about things, ask more questions, listen more closely, but in the end, you should follow your passion. You should follow the thing that makes you happy and excited and engaged and interested. And journalism does that, if public relation does that, if sports reporting does that, if creating new forms of media does that, then that's what you should do.
Good evening and welcome to Cut for News. I'm Carolina Hassett.
And I'm Athena Ankra. Thank you for joining us.
Former mayor and potential 2020 candidate Michael Bloomberg has apologized after his stop, question, and frisk policy he implemented to help lower the murder rate. The policy allowed police officers to detain any person on any type of vague suspicion, as well as search individuals without warrant and arrest them if any illegal substance or weapon was found. Bloomberg began to receive backlash from activists because the policy disproportionately affected African American and Latino men. Bloomberg apologized, saying, quote, "But I can't change history. However, today I want you to know that I realized back then I was wrong and I'm sorry," end quote. Bloomberg has recently filed paperwork to appear on the Democratic primary ballots in several states, but the people have begun to question whether or not he will receive votes. So Athena, this is a very controversial topic, and people are now saying, because he received such backlash, is he even going to get any votes? And when you're running for a position like this, people have to remember that they're going to look back on your previous policies or decisions you made and judge you based off of that. So this has shed a very negative light on his possible campaign.
Right. Today's political world is all about transparency, and it's all about the people knowing where you're headed, what you've done in the past, and where you're at. So I think it's important that he apologized, but it is a little bit risky moving into the future and saying, okay, well, what mistakes are you going to make next?
Absolutely.
Next, we send it over to Cut for News specialist Alyssa Stoney for information on another devastating shooting in Southern California.
A high school in Southern California is rocked by a shooting that left 2 dead and injured 3 others. A 16-year-old opened fire at Saugus High School located in Santa Clarita on November 14th before classes began. The shooter then shot himself in the head and later died at the hospital the next day. Police are still trying to search for a motive as reports show that the student seemed to live a completely normal life. The shooter, identified as Nathaniel Burhow, pulled a gun out of his backpack in the middle of the school's quad on his 16th birthday. Burhow shot 5 people and then turned the gun on himself. Police have been investigating the situation and interviewed Burhow's family and his alleged girlfriend. Authorities found a .45 caliber semi-automatic pistol with no rounds left on the scene. It is unclear how Burhow obtained the gun. Sheriff Alex Villanueva said in a press conference that, quote, "I hate to have Saugus be added to the names of Columbine, Parkland, Sandy Hook, but it's a reality that affects us all throughout the nation, something we're going to have to deal with," end quote. The campus opened for students to obtain their belongings on Tuesday, where one student spoke on her return to campus.
It was really therapeutic for me because I was expecting to be really nervous or break down, and I didn't.
They lost a little bit of their innocence. I don't want to leave her side. I was telling her I think that's my trauma.
The school remains closed until December 2nd, while the community agrees with the loss of the 16-year-old girl and the 14-year-old boy who died. Our thoughts go out to the families affected by this tragedy. From the studio, I'm Alyssa Stoney.
A new update in the mysterious case of the death of Jeffrey Epstein. 2 of his correctional officers were just criminally indicted on federal charges. Michael Thomas and Tova Knoll were charged with making false records and conspiracy. As a refresher, Epstein, a high-profile banker who had contacts with people like President Trump and the Clintons, was found dead in August in his prison cell after being found guilty of sex trafficking and other sexual offenses involving girls as young as 14. The case of his death went viral after some tweets from the president insinuating that the ruling of a suicide in this case was false. Rather, Epstein was murdered in his cell because of connections he had with other high-profile figures in the public eye. After multiple autopsy reports, new findings show signs of strangulation rather than hanging. According to surveillance footage from within the New York prison, Epstein's cell was left unchecked for 8 hours before he was found dead. The protocol called for Epstein to have been checked on every 30 minutes. About 2 weeks prior, Epstein had reportedly attempted suicide, but was swiftly removed from suicide watch after just 6 days. U.S. Attorney Jeffrey Berman said that the guards, quote, lied on official forms to hide their dereliction. The 2 officers have taken accountability for the incident, as Michael Thomas told a supervisor that they simply, quote, messed up. This is, as of now, no suspects have been named, but as time goes on, hopefully we'll find the truth within the case. So this is a bit of a tangled web we're weaving. This is a very complex story, and it's very big on social media right now, so everybody's talking about it. There's so many pieces to the puzzle and so many pieces that we have yet to even see or discuss and know about, frankly. What are your thoughts on the matter?
Yeah, well, definitely the surveillance footage of the guards has yet to be released, and I think for a very important reason, because believe me, we tried to look for it, it's not on there. But
it's very frustrating.
I think a lot of people are forgetting the true victims of the situation, the 14-year-old girls. They seem to kind of be overlooked throughout this whole thing. So do you have any updates on what's going on with them?
Yes, so remember the case was about 10 years of different girls coming forward and saying, I was harmed by Jeffrey Epstein and all these things like that. And then there were rumors about a sex trafficking ring within the high-profile community, and Epstein was a millionaire, so now that he's passed away, they don't know where the money goes. But recently, attorneys that were covering his case have decided to open his estate, and hopefully some girls will get a cut of that after the emotional abuse that they suffered.
Well, we should hope so. Now we send it off to Cut for News specialist Caroline Smirk for an update on Obama and the 2020 election.
Former President Barack Obama has yet to endorse a 2020 presidential candidate, but he recently addressed concerns about some progressive ideas suggested by Democratic candidates, according to the New York Times. While speaking to a group of liberal donors on November 15, Mr. Obama said, quote, "This is still a country that is less revolutionary than it is interested in improvement. They like seeing things improved, but the average American doesn't think we have to completely tear down the system and remake it." While the former president did not address any policy or candidate directly, the New York Times says that his remarks could allude to Senators Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. Mr. Obama also said that American voters are not driven by views, quote, reflected on certain left-leaning Twitter feeds or the activist wing of our party. These remarks seem to upset some Democrats. The morning after Obama's statements, the hashtag #TooFarLeft trended on Twitter, due in part to his remarks, according to The Hill. In the studio, Caroline Smirk, Cut for News.
The high-stakes impeachment investigation hearing saw 4 key witnesses publicly testify on Capitol Hill Tuesday. As President Trump continues to slam the investigation as a scam and a hoax, former special envoy to Ukraine Kurt Volker flipping his script from his past testimony to House impeachment investigators, now saying he realized Ukraine aid was in fact linked to a dirt-for-dollars scheme. Former National Security Council aide Tim Morrison testified that Vice President Pence didn't mention investigations being the reason U.S. aid to Ukraine was held up during a meeting with Ukrainian President Zelensky. This after a full day of testimony from Pence aide Jennifer Williams and National Security Council official Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman. President Trump again expresses his anger towards the investigation.
You have a kangaroo court headed by Little Shifty Schiff, where we don't have lawyers, we don't have witnesses, we don't have anything, and yet I just got to watch, and the Republicans are absolutely killing it. They are doing so well because it's a scam. It's a big scam.
As the testimonies continue, make sure you tune in the publicly televised impeachment hearings Wednesday and Thursday this week to hear top donor to the president's inaugural committee Gordon Sondland, Deputy Assistant Secretary at the Defense Department Laura Cooper, Undersecretary of State Political Affairs at the State Department David Hale, former top Russia specialist Fiona Hill, and a State Department aide who claims he overheard a phone conversation between Sondland and Trump, David Holmes, testify.
The first couple is officially registered to vote in Florida. President Trump and the First Lady Melania Trump registered after they made Mar-a-Lago their new primary residence last month. It has been considered that the president may use his voter registration as an influence on other Floridians so they will vote themselves in 2020. On October 31st, Trump tweeted, quote, "I will be making Palm Beach, Florida our permanent residence. I have been treated very badly by the political leaders of both the city and the state. Few have been treated worse," end quote.
Recently, news developed of a potential hate crime in Georgia. Cut for News specialist Hallie Dato has the latest.
Historically, the United States is a country known for hate crimes against minorities, and this past week, things don't seem to be getting any better. In Gainesville, Georgia, another atrocity nearly unfolded when a white female teenager was arrested for conspiring to attack Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church. The teenage girl went as far as visiting the historically black church and researching other black churches in the area. Her plan was prevented when a peer at her school, who overheard her discussing the plans, had reported to an administrator. She was later arrested, facing charges of attempt to commit murder. With this case of divine intervention, we can only hope that there is a more direct action at preventing these kinds of events from unfolding. In the studio, Hallie Dato, Cut for News.
This week, we experienced something in the valley that we don't experience often.
Caitlin Canahan is in the Cronkite Weather Center tracking the latest.
Thanks so much, Carolina, and you're not wrong. It has been an interesting week. It's been a wet one so far, and the reason for that is we've seen that cold front come in, and it's bringing with it a lot of moisture. So over the past few hours, we've gotten a flash flood warning, and what you're seeing behind me was 4 o'clock this afternoon. Overcast skies for sure. Going into the rest of the week, the hottest that it's going to get is 69 degrees on Saturday and Sunday. And look, for the first time, the low is going to be in the mid 40s for the season. So you know it is cooling down in time for Turkey Day and in time for the holidays coming up here. So prepare to kind of wear a scarf, bring a sweater with you if you're going to work, just so that way you're not too frigid in those temperatures, because mornings and nights, it's going to be pretty chilly. Now, one thing I do want to talk about with all this flash flood warnings going on is I want to talk about tips for driving. One, you're going to want to slow down because it gets slippery out there, and that's another reason why you want to leave a little bit of space between you and the vehicle in front of you. This will help you avoid heavy braking. That's what is going to cause your car to skid and bump into the car in front of you. Just looking out for you. Be safe on the freeways out there. Now, what you see behind me is what's going to happen tomorrow night. We're going to see scattered thunderstorms throughout the evening, so make sure you stay inside. If you are going to be outside, don't be caught by a tree. Be safe. Don't get indirectly struck. So that's it for now. It's going to be a wet week, folks.
Thank you, Caitlin. President Trump's longtime friend and one-time campaign advisor Roger Stone has been found guilty on all 7 counts.
Stone was found guilty on 1 count for obstruction of an official proceeding. 5 counts were for false statements, including lying to Congress under oath, and 1 count was witness tampering. This count was involved in the Robert Mueller case that involved possible conspiracy with Russia during the 2016 presidential election.
The Justice Department says he got in the way of the congressional investigation of Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election by lying to the House Intelligence Committee about the Trump campaign's contact with WikiLeaks.
The judge is permitting Stone to await his February 6 sentencing from home rather than behind bars. He could get up to 50 years, but the sentence will likely be much lighter. So, Athena, this obviously is a lot to take in.
Right.
And honestly, Trump kind of responded to this on Twitter. And it definitely put more of a divide between the Democrats and the Republicans, and I think the situation's just getting worse between the two of them during this whole, situation. So what are your thoughts?
Yes, I think this mainly, raises a lot more questions, because this is referring back to the Mueller investigation, and we've moved on since then. There's so much more happening right now during the impeachment proceedings, during all of these Ukraine things, that we haven't thought about Russia in a couple years. So the fact that he lied under oath, witness tampering, all of these major issues, it's kind of having us wonder what else is out there, what haven't we caught, what do we know, and what does this mean about the Mueller investigation, what does this mean about the 2016 election? There's just so many more questions.
Yeah, and that was the main thing. The main reason he was charged for all these crimes was for lying under oath, and that's such a serious thing, so it kind of sets the bar for future leaders to kind of take note. Well, that's it for Cut for News tonight. Thank you for joining us.
For a behind-the-scenes look at our content, follow us on all social media at @thecut_network.
Have a good night.